Here.
2 absent. Agenda approval?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Citizen participation. What?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the record, Dan, this is probably about to look right. Mr. Mayor, since you've been in office, I've made several presentations to this board. And none of you showed any interest in any of the presentations, so I take it and go home. I've had 3 people come up to me and ask me, can the mayor wants something from you? And I don't understand this because I'm not getting any type of correspondence from you, or you're not calling me or anything of that nature. And I don't know if that's what your MO is, but I don't know what you've heard. I don't beat people up. I don't bite. I don't do anything of that nature. If you need something from me, please call me, text me, do something, reach out. It's getting a little tiresome of having people come up to me and say, well, the mayor wants something from you. Well, if the mayor wants something from me, he's welcome to call me.
Dan, you didn't leave the documentation. You said that we wanted order, but you left without it. So I simply asked Jeff if he would ask you if you would give us a copy of that document.
Okay, it's not Jeff's responsibility to pass on anything. If you want something from me, please, just
Dan,
ask for it.
Okay, you made it clear that you had a problem with me. Did you not? You even told me you had a problem with me.
Absolutely, but that doesn't preclude you from being a bigger person, if you will,
I'm
and
asking
saying,
you-
Dan, can I have something from you?
I'm asking you kindly, would you please give us a copy of your documentation?
Sure, I can do that.
Yeah. Unless you gotta say the pledge of allegiance real quick. Anybody else? Public participation? Regular meeting minutes, May 5th, 2026.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Special meeting minutes of May 14th, 2026.
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Bills to be paid. Let's see. I lost it. Special meeting minutes, May 14th, 2026.
You said special, but you didn't say
Executive session, there's
Yeah.
3 on here.
Oh, there's 3 of them.
There's 3.
Motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Bills to be paid.
Okay, I got 2 copies here. I got one dated May 19th and one on Thursday, May 14th. I think I'm going to
This is here.
so the 14th. Okay.
Motion.
All those in favor? Opposed? Municipal advisor discussion and update. Thank you.
How's everyone doing?
Okay.
Good.
That's this one.
Chris, I want to see pink.
What's that?
I want to see pink. You pink?
I gotta remember that next time. Thanks so much for giving us the time. Really what we want to do is just kind of update the board on what the activity that's been happening behind the scenes. And I know there's a couple new faces, and so just give you an opportunity to communicate and be transparent and answer questions. questions that you all might have. So the agenda I put together was basically kind of going over, as I mentioned, just kind of recent accomplishments. A review again of current debt service payments that the city is obligated to make. Talk about funding options and considerations for phase 1 and 2 of the infrastructure project. Talk about timing, and then future needs and planning. So for the planning will be beyond phase 2. So phase 3 and 4 is kind of what we kind of tagged it as. So looking at recent accomplishments, so the city's completed quite a bit this year. So obviously hired a municipal advisor, which I think was a great idea. Passed a reimbursement resolution. And so for those that aren't on the board at the time, a reimbursement resolution gave the city the opportunity to reimburse yourself for any costs that you pay out of pocket. And it's a federal tax code that it basically, once you adopt the resolution, then from that point forward, you can use federally and state tax-free borrowing to then reimburse and pay yourself back. If you don't have that reimbursement resolution, then you're not able to do that. You only can do it from that point going forward, actually, a few days before going forward. So that gives you more flexibility. Now again, the resolution doesn't obligate the city, so you do not have to reimburse yourself, but it gives you the option and opportunity that if you want to, that you can do that through the funding mechanism. Also, the city has hired an auditor to audit financial statements, completed the 2024 audit, which I believe is being presented tonight to the board to approve. You're on track to have the 2025 audits completed on time as well, which is great news. You completed the new water and sewer rate study, and we've gone through and given the city some different ideas for some different financial policies to consider adopting to help kind of put the guardrails and just kind of shore up things for going forward. Still to do is to approve the rate study, the rate increases that for water sewer rates, which I think might be later on tonight as well. So you guys are off and running, right? And then the last one is approving updated financial policies as needed. So one thing that you may see in the next few months is some policy recommendations from the city to adopt for the city to use going forward. And these policies are basically financial policies. So it's like a policy for like a debt policy. So this is when the city would issue debt. This is the reason why. This is kind of putting, again, kind of guardrails up. A fund balance policy might be one. Maintaining a certain fund balance for the city. Transfer policy of transferring funds and setting up kind of the guidelines for that going forward as well. So the idea is, again, just kind of put the framework up to say, this is, this is kind of what a lot of credit rating agencies look at as being, what's a good credit for the city, and putting it up. And it also helps you for future boards, basically. So for many boards going forward, the policies in place for the city that allow kind of the flexibility to shorten up things for that. So, any questions so far? All right. This slide just kind of goes over the current debt service payments for the city. Now these were taken from a previous audit, so some of these might be shifted just slightly, but basically the only real outstanding debt that the city has right now is a bond issue, Series 2011 bond issue that was passed. It says here that you have $934,000 left. You probably now, given the date, it's probably a little bit less that payment, but, they were issued, in an election, that was held in 2011. And, the interest rates on those are extremely low, 1.6%. So it's not something that you want to really do anything except for pay off. And those get paid off in 2031 is when those come due, or when the final payment is. And so what we're talking to Becky or to Jennifer and others is basically saying, look, let's take your debt service payments and let's wrap them around the existing debt so that you have kind of a level payment going forward. So that's kind of the payment structure that we're kind of going towards. So talk about planned funding for phase 1 and 2. Bonds be issued at the end of this year or maybe the beginning of next year, depending on the timing of different things. Phase 1, we estimate right around $500,000 of total costs. And the plan is that those costs, and we currently have been making payments towards those already. I think about $300,000 or so that's been paid. Don't quote me on that, but that's roughly around. And those funds will again have the option that those can be reimbursed back to the city once you issue debt for the financing. And the idea is to issue debt that would back pay basically for this phase 1 and then provide funding for phase 2. And that one we're estimating right around $1.3 million for the funding for that. So that gives you a total of about $1.8 million, roughly kind of rounded to $2 million, just to kind of for modeling purposes. And as I mentioned, the payments will be structured around the outstanding debt so that it's more of a level payment. Given the amount of payment that this is, which is right around $300,000 or so per year, we're anticipating that this payments will be made out of the capital improvement fund from the city that's already in place. And so it doesn't require any increases in taxes for the city. Page 6 looks at what those payments would kind of look like, which I mentioned is a little bit less than $300,000. This contemplates a 15-year amortization. And again, you see the Series 2011 bonds there, it wraps it around. So basically it has a little bit of payment for the first few years, and then it backfills and then pays it, then the rest from 2042 to 2042. The idea is that we can't keep that in play. Any questions? All right. The next one is slide 7, which has to do with the water rate recommendations. And I don't know if anyone else in the audience wants to join me up here.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, council. Chris and I had a chance to meet with Jennifer last week and the mayor, kind of talk through some of this information that Chris has shared this evening, and asked me to come back and for the newer members on council, just kind of do a refresher of the presentation that I gave in March relative to water and sewer rates. So just a real quick recap. We undertook a task order last year to look at the city's water and sewer rates and make some recommendations kind of based on estimated population growth, estimated expenses, and kind of that list of capital improvements projects that we've had on the list for a while but haven't had the means to kind of continually implement year over year. So you should have 2 pages in your packet. This is a repeat of what I presented in March. But just real quickly, the goals under that task order of the rate study were to look at your current water and sewer rates relative to the city's revenues over the last 2 or 3 years. As you all know, water and sewer rates are stagnant for a good period of time, for a long period of time. I think it was a very known it was a known issue that something was going to have to happen with rates. They also asked that we look at kind of some foreseeable population growth. You have a large development, as you all know, that's currently in phase one. So what we try to do is make some reasonable assumptions of how that population can grow, how the systems could add users, and how that would impact your revenue. We also met with all the utility supervisors, kind of compiled a list of potential short-term and long-term improvements, some rough cost estimates for those, to kind of build into the borrowing scenarios. And then I'll obviously talk with Northland, with Chris and the city about, how could we potentially finance those projects over a period of time. So as I shared back in March, the city to this point has paid out of pocket for any city utility improvements that were necessary to support phase one of Silo Ridge, the McBride development. So as Chris mentioned earlier, that out-of-pocket expense could potentially be reimbursed when money is borrowed at some later date for phases 1 and 2. So those two phases really, phase one is kind of we're seeing that primarily as the McBride project, phase one is currently under construction, and phase two is a combination of other system improvements that would be necessary to support future phases of McBride, and also just to implement some of the water system, sewer system projects that were identified in recent engineering reports that the city just simply hasn't had the money to work on the last few years. And then we identified kind of a future phase 3 and phase 4 as very long-term improvements. It would be wastewater treatment plant rehabilitation, but also potentially upgrade as a result of population growth. It would be water system improvements that would be necessary if the population continues to grow and you continue to add users. But ultimately, if the city can put themselves in a financial situation to be able to apply for grants, have all your audits up to date, your user rates set at an appropriate level, that should make you eligible for some cheaper money at that time. So as of right now, we're making recommendations for the next few years of what you should do with water and sewer rates to ultimately put you in a position to either better cash flow those departments and cease your rate increases, or at least be able to borrow for larger phases, assuming the city continues to see growth and these projects are successful. So just real quickly, how we went about your rate analysis. You do have a fair amount of an industrial user base here in the sewer department. What we didn't want to do is just assume that as population grows, that these manufacturers in town are by default going to continue to grow, and you're going to continue to grow your commercial sewer users. So we converted all of your current users to basically like an equivalent residential user, if that makes sense, just to make these rate projections a little bit easier, and then that also doesn't kind of double count on your population growth and your business community growth. In a perfect world, as population grows, businesses come to town, these manufacturers continue to grow, your situation really should only improve financially from what I've shown you tonight, but I didn't want to be, I wanted to be conservative, I didn't want to be overly optimistic there. We also tried to make sure we're minimizing impacts to kind of your ongoing operations and your annual budget. So we're just trying to make sure that we're capturing some additional revenue for those utilities. If you go to the next page, obviously not every dollar collected goes into the bank. As your system continues to grow, a lot of that money goes back out in the form of personnel, electricity, operating costs. So, as you continue to plan and you look at some of these numbers that I shared tonight, just know that about 60 cents of every dollar collected we expect to go back into the system. So we're not counting for every single dollar of additional revenue to go toward this debt service. It actually can go toward operating the systems too. So, and that is that's a fairly kind of average value, both within your budget, but also other communities that have done similar studies. I think that's a pretty reasonable assumption that about 60 cents of every dollar goes into actually owning and maintaining your system. And that does include some rehabilitation and just some ongoing deferred maintenance that maybe you have or haven't done in the past, but that would allow you to kind of reinvest in at least keeping the system that's in place right now serviceable. And that includes, you know, small repairs and replacements and things that do need to be happening year over year, independent of the larger capital projects. The rates that you're gonna see tonight assumes over the course of the next 3 years, we're adding about 49 new residential customers. So that, I think that is a very conservative number. You have quite a few rooftops going up in other parts of town, aside from the development. Phase 1 of the McBride development, I believe, is 36 lots. So that would assume that over the course of the next 3 years, you know, that first phase would fill in, and you'd have that many new customers as well as a few of the lots that would be built on around town now. So about 49 new kind of average residential customers is what we're accounting for between now and 2029 in some of these rate projections. And then, you know, we did run out some scenarios all the way out about 15 years, you know, to 2039. We're assuming that subdivision or a combination of the subdivision and other developments would raise your number of residential customers by about 600 users, which I know it's a big number, but, you know, over 15 years, that's probably not unreasonable with the amount of growth that you have there. So just really quickly, Chris touched on it too, we do want to make some recommendations for some rate increases on water and sewer. But obviously, you know, we did look at several different scenarios. We want to try to the best of our ability to minimize impact to the citizens and not have that just huge rate increase just happen all at once. So we ran a scenario that would allow for a 7% year-over-year annual increase to the base water and sewer rates. I showed there what kind of an average residential user in town is paying or would pay as a result of that. So, you know, year over year, you're looking at somewhere, you know, to start, it's around a $4 per month increase for combined for water and sewer. So about $2 a month on water and $2 a month on sewer roughly would be an increase to their bills. And we would just continue that for a period of time. You know, in order to get to a spot where we feel like the city could afford one of these larger projects, or at least get in a spot where you can continue to fund just rehab and capital improvement projects that are on your list, we would think you would need to run, you know, you'd need to implement this process with the understanding that it's going to need to happen for, you know, at least 5 to 7 years. Doesn't mean we shouldn't review that annually, doesn't mean that we shouldn't have some check to say, okay, maybe we're doing better than we realized, maybe we're bringing in revenue, maybe we've grown a little bit faster, maybe we have a better idea of what these future projects are going to cost. It doesn't mean you can't reevaluate that, but I do think if you want to kind of minimize that sticker shock or that increase this year, it needs to be done with the understanding that this does need to happen over an extended period of time, and it can't just be a one-off thing. So, you know, we try to look at this in a very non-political way, more of a just how do we make these departments functional, and how do we afford to keep the system in good operating condition, and also be able to potentially afford, you know, improvements in the future. So, if you look at those rates, you know, basically each year we would expect this additional increase it starts by about $100,000 gross additional revenue for that department. Once again, some of that probably goes into operation and maintenance, but some of that money could be put in the bank for debt service and other things. And then, you know, obviously that number grows over a period of time as those rates go up. But once again, I think if you're able to implement a policy, I know obviously we have to do this legally. We want to make sure that it's transparent to everyone, so Emily and Lance can probably advise on how that policy or that ordinance would need to be written. But ultimately, we'd like to put the council in a position to where, you know, this is not something that is controversial. There's kind of a mutual understanding that rates need to continually be increased over a period of time rather than, you know, hit your customers with a 30 or 40% increase today, you know, betting on future projects. So I think the way that the pace of the subdivision so far, the way that it's moving, just the trend of the project schedule allows you to kind of do this more slowly, hopefully minimize the impact to your users month over month, year over year.
In phase 1, we've had, 5 permits? for phase one.
That's what, that's the last I heard.
And the one thing I wanted to note too is, as Cameron said, the additional funds raised, obviously a portion of that will be going back to the system and back to the, functioning of things and let's kind of shore up. But also, part of it is to think about long-term plans and strategies to how to pay for the debt service on the additional debt, but also to build up reserves. And, the best thing to do is to build up as much cash as you can, because that means you don't have to borrow as much later on. And so, especially if you can take those funds and you can invest them even in a CD or something and start growing some of those cash reserves, then instead of borrowing $5 million, you're only borrowing $3 million, or whatever it is. And so that is the type of thing to think about, and that's one thing that's really good with this plan is that it kind of, first of all, it's a gradual kind of growth, so it's not a shock to citizens, it's not a shock to users. And it also gives you the build-up to be able to take those funds and not, I think it's part of it is you want to be really prudent with it and try to, build up the cash as much as possible, knowing that you're going to have these things down the road, kind of thing. So, any question on that? All right. Then the last, a couple things. So, timing considerations. What we talked about before is, as Cameron kind of pointed out, the nice thing with this plan is that it kind of allows you to kind of grow into it as the need is. And you're not anticipating or you're not banking on a certain amount of success or a certain amount of growth before you're not putting the debt before you have the growth. You're able to do it as you gradually kind of go on. So again, phase one is to pay with current funds on hand. And then as phase one, they start building out and they start looking at phase two, then they're able to see how much it is and project out then on phase two, how much you think you'll need to borrow for phase two to kind of keep it in pace. And at that time, you would be issuing what's called certificates of participation, or a COP, and it's a lease structure. And so in Missouri, due to statutes, those are the types of funding and borrowing that the city's able to achieve without getting full voter approval to issue the debt. And so if it's a revenue bond or it's a general obligation bond, those go to voters to get approval on. Certificate of participation is a form of borrowing that you do not need to do that, so it gives you a little bit more flexibility. And so phase two, the idea is that you would enter the market, or that you would look to borrowing either anticipation of phase two, the start of it, and starting the next 12 to 18 months, and then kind of going through that. And so one of the things that we've talked to the city about also is how to issue that debt. And there's a couple ways that you could do it. So one is that you could go out and you could do a public offering where you offer it out to the public, to investors, and then they buy the debt and they set the interest rates. The other is to do what's called a direct purchase or a direct loan, or a private placement is another term for it. And that's where you go to a financial institution and you say, okay, we have this that we want, maybe a bank or something like that, and say, we'd like to work with you on this borrowing. You kind of work directly with that one entity, and that's called a direct placement, because it's directly with them. And so that can give you a little more flexibility as well. So we'll explore, as the time comes, we'll explore both possibilities. and provide you suggestions and ideas on what we think would be the best suit at that time for the city. Ultimately, give me the lowest cost possible with the greatest flexibility. So that's kind of the goal that we want to achieve. And then future needs planning, again, after phase 2 is completed, and depending on if you're looking to phase 3 and 4, at that time you'll have a much better understanding of costs and timing. We currently, and kind of the numbers that we ran, that we shared with Cameron on building out the rate study and structure, was anticipating an additional $4 to $5 million for phase 3 and $5 to $6 million in phase 4. And that's, again, over the next 5 years from now to 10 years from now. So that's, a number of years down the line. And that kind of lines up when you look at those numbers that Cameron provided, kind of the build up of what those funds will be used for at that time. So again, the idea is to be prudent, to be patient, to look for things, but also be prepared, to make sure that you're in the right place at the right time to execute the plan. So.
Is there questions? A lot of good information.
So when was the last time we had a rate increase for the city?
No, I haven't.
So,
Sewer was 2014, water was 2021.
so 10 years for sewer, 6 years, 5 years for water.
City opted to absorb it, rather than increases in the So now we have to decide, if we're doing small, incremental raises rather than doing one big one. I think everybody's going.
Gives you a chance to keep evaluating.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Was there any update on that? So now we just have to send it back to approve the board or? Correct, Cameron, you gave your updates now, we just need to decide if we're going to approve that or not.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm happy to answer any other questions about how those how that rate structure was built. We did look at several different scenarios. We looked at a larger increase up front and then maybe smaller increases later on. It seemed like at the pace we're expecting some of these projects to move with, something a little more linear made sense. And it does, over a period of years, it definitely impacts your financial situation in a positive way. Obviously, the cost of just owning and maintaining that system in the last 5 or 10 years inflation has killed you since your last increase, just from a day-to-day standpoint. So I think even if you were to maintain the status quo, when we were having this conversation that the city's not growing at all, you're still in a position as a board where, the water and sewer departments have very little margin for error and probably they need attention regardless. So we just tried to build this around, some optimistic future growth projections without being, too optimistic, to try to give you some, some guidance on what makes sense there.
So will our approval right now be, when we vote on the approval, will that be for that chart that he gave us or just for the 1 year current?
Well, Mayor, I can tell you that we would recommend it should be in a 1 year increment because in looking at this and our conversations about this have been that to just go ahead and pass and say a 7% increase annually for the next 6, 7 years, whatever, appears arbitrary and not necessarily tied to the cost of service. So that I'm not saying you can't do a 7% increase every year, but it needs to be reviewed every year to say that's tied to the cost of service and it's an appropriate increase.
And do we want to do that through a policy or ordinance?
For ordinance.
I'm sorry?
Ordinance. So we would recommend that if you do a finding every year, that the 7% is appropriate, and make sure that that's reviewed annually.
So we would need a motion to approve the rate increase for the water and sewer of the 7% for the year 2027.
I think they've recommended that starts the calendar.
8/1/2027.
Yeah, I think that basically, I think that just because of when your payments due on your existing SRF loan, so ideally you start that as soon as possible so that it begins FY 2027 with that new rate in mind.
Is that what you mean? So are
Yes,
you doing
so it's
calendar year or
possible.
fiscal year?
Fiscal year would be ideal.
It would be fiscal year. I think you had calendar year on.
Yeah, I think fiscal year makes sense. Yeah, I think that.
Fiscal year.
I think if you had a policy, if you had an ordinance in place where you were adopting a 7% increase annually, but, had to be reviewed based on the cost of service by the board in June every year, that makes a whole lot of sense, because then, we can be planning up ahead of that budget time, and then, it just can hopefully
It was
continue.
just throwing me off because it said calendar year, and I was like, well, we probably should push this down the road.
No, I
Fiscal
like
year.
that. I think that makes sense.
Okay, so fiscal year,
So we would be motioning this, but with a review in there.
yeah, provide an ordinance for this with an annual review, correct?
With the,
With an annual review.
Doesn't go in effect till the 27.
It'll go into effect 8/1/2027, which will be the next fiscal year. One month into the next.
Well, so, and that's where I guess my chart, so let me go through that. So that actually assumes, if you look on the right-hand side, that actually assumes that that would be the amount of funds you would collect by 8/1/2027.
Oh, okay. I see what you're
So
saying.
I would recommend you implement that for the beginning of FY 2027, so in
So
2026.
implement it June.
Now,
2027.
and by this time in 2027, that's the estimated funds that you raise.
Otherwise, we
So
don't
it'll
get
be-
any tax on it.
Right.
Here.
Right, exactly. So that's,
6/30,
yeah.
6/30/2026.
Glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
That's good.
We was just throwing the dates out.
Yeah.
One,
That makes sense.
You want me to read it? Recommendation that the city council develop a policy or ordinance effective 6/30/26 for an annual step rate increase beginning in 6/30/26 of approximately 7% per year. We're doing the two through
through 2023 with an annual review.
2033 with an annual review for both water and sewer wastewater services. And
Do I have a first?
Yeah.
Did you have a question, Joyce?
I got
You have a
I
first?
make a motion.
We made a second.
Now can we talk?
Preston?
Roll call,
No.
Discussion.
discussion?
We're playing catch up.
Yeah.
So we really don't have a choice in this. So there's not something that we're planning on making money on, we're just planning on paying on expenses, so. That's why I'm gonna say, that's why I made the first, because it's not something we need to do, it's something we have to do.
And it'll be an annual review. And we feel like.
We may not be on the board, but it's gonna have to be reviewed, but it's gotta be started.
I think the word they used was perfect, to keep the city functional. I think that's all
I
right.
love it.
That's three numbers.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Hartzell? Yes. Cracker?
Yes.
Mortimer?
Yes.
Renieri?
Yes.
Roseman?
Yes.
Discussion of the park tax on August 4, 2026 ballot. President?
So we reviewed that and looked at the prior ordinance, and the prior ordinance put the sales tax in effect beginning October and that can only be renewed every 10 years. So we're a little early. So we are recommending you have that for the next April election in 2027 to be in effect then by October 1st of 2027, and that will flow without interruption then. And if you have it on the general election instead of trying to do it on the primary, you pay less of the election expenses.
So April,
And I believe we sent that proposed ordinance already over to Laney. I don't know if that's April 4th or April 6th of next year, but whatever the general election.
and then we'll share costs instead of.
You'll share more costs that way because you'll have more municipalities with issues on the ballot, whereas in the primary, you're really not gonna have any other municipalities with issues on the ballot. There'll be more state issues and elections, so you would have a higher burden of the election expenses at the primary as opposed to the general municipal election.
Do we know what timeframe we will need to submit that for the April?
I don't know if they've come out with,
Certification is normally like in January.
I don't know if they've come out with the next election calendar yet.
They probably haven't looked at it. My assumption is going to be we have to have it certified and into them by January.
Okay. Discussion and approval of the fiscal year 24 audit.
If you'll turn to page, do y'all have your audit with you? If you turn to page 4, I want to read some highlights, just to kind of go over some things and point out some things in the audit that I would like to highlight with you this year. Where it says financial highlights, the assets and deferred outflows of the resources of the city exceeded its liabilities and deferred inflows of resources at the end of the fiscal year by $27,781,641, which is your net position. Net position is comprised of $20,736,723 of net investment in capital assets, $3,530,258 is restricted for debt service and other purposes, and $1,847 is unrestricted and available for governmental activities, and $3,516,507 is unrestricted and available for the city's business type activities. I'd like to focus on that last number and the one above it, because that's not a lot of money that's unrestricted for us to use for general purposes out of the other numbers. When we talk about what is available for our general purpose and what we can use unrestricted for general purpose of purchase and basically spending at our available at our unrestricted needs. The rest of it is restricted and not available for basic use without approval of council. When we go to think about all of that big number of $27 million, $3.5 million is unrestricted and available for us at our normal use. Think about that number. The city's total net position decreased by $889,415. Of this amount, $218,605 was a decrease from the city's governmental activities, and $670,810 was a decrease from the business type activities. Again, we didn't increase our net position, we decreased by almost $1 million. It's not a number that we like to hear. We like to hear an increase, we like to hear a decrease. The unassigned fund balance for the general fund was $320, or 0% of the general fund expenditures. The city's long-term debt bonds decreased by $135,000 during the current fiscal year. Regular principal payments were made on the waterworks revenue funds. That's just something normal that we pay every year, something that Chris touched on in 2011. Just a normal payment for the year, nothing out of the ordinary, just something that we have to touch base on in the audit. The next page I'd like to focus in on is page 6. You'll see the government-wide financial analysis. The net position, there, you'll see 2023 and 2024. Both governmental and business type activities, we're not increasing, we're decreasing. At the bottom number there in that position, and that's basically just confirming what I said on page 4 on page 6. So I just kind of wanted to highlight this table there for you and let you know that that's there for your resource and numbers there that you can see that where these numbers came from. On page 7, down at the bottom, total revenues decreased by $112,195. Governmental activities revenue decreased by $1,970,674, mainly due to capital grant funding from a federal airport grant for the airport received during FY23, but not received during FY24. Business type activities decreased $1,141,521, mainly due to decreased utilities usage. Transfers from business type activities to governmental activities increased by $901,208. Total expenses increased $926,956. Governmental activity expenses increased by $766,193, and business type activities expenses increased by $160,763. This statement here alone says that we are overspending. We need to cut our expenditures in order to survive. General fund budgetary highlights on page 8. $110,252 increase to the general government's budgeted expenditures due to greater than anticipated expenditures for contract labor, salaries and benefits, and miscellaneous other expenses. $146,250 increase to public safety budgeted expenditures due to greater than anticipated salaries and benefits and capital expenditures. $256,937 increase to budgeted transfers and other financing sources. Those are just a few highlights I wanted to touch on the general fund, just to explain that this is a source of funding that we have to do interfund transfers, and if we don't cut that down, then our proprietary and business-like activities aren't going to survive, because those are where the main revenue sources come from. These increases in expenditures to the general fund from the things that are touched in here are continuing to happen as we speak today. We have to continue to cut these expenditures down. Otherwise, again, the city will not survive. Something that the auditor touched base on and that we had to do was we were not accounting for allowance for uncollectible accounts. We had to make an increase to that in our books, and so I just wanted to touch base on that with you a little bit. So we are going to make some adjustments to that within our books. So we had to make a slight adjustment to that. So that's why that was a little different from the previous year. So I just wanted to mention that to you as well. And that's on page 23. On page 30, long-term debt.
Jeff, can you go back to that page 22 and say that again?
Yeah, the allowance for uncollectible accounts is basically the accounts that we don't believe that we're going to collect out of utility billing. So we had not made any changes to that for several years, and so we needed to make some adjustments to that this year. It was something that he didn't catch last year, and he needed to make an adjustment this year, so we're going to have to adjust our policy and do some utility billing write-offs, basically. Long-term debt is on page 30. You can see our long-term debt is going down on the revenue bonds, and the impact loan that we had, that is going down, which is a good sign. The compensated absences, which are like vacation, comp time, things that are due and payable that are considered a liability, those are gonna continue to probably rise as we have longer term employees here. Not a bad thing, they just have to be considered a debt to the city because they have to go, they're based on our books and they are payable as an employee leaves us. So as employees stay with us, which are good, and employees stay longer with the city, comes a debt to the city and it's due and payable, something that the city has to pay. So you'll see that those can go up as we have employees that are staying with us longer, and we have to book those. So I just wanted to touch base that those are on your books. Those have increased slightly, nothing too alarming other than if you have an employee leave and they're payable, then those are things that we have to pay at the end at the end of their term with us. And last, we did have one finding, and I would like to really focus in on this on page 58. And that is the criteria. First is there should be a system for tracking additions to and removal of items from inventory using an acceptable method of accounting in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Accounting information should then be forwarded to the city's accountant for entry into the accounting system. The condition, the city's water and sewer and natural gas department's accounting policy for inventory costing is to use the first in and first out FIFO method, but there is no real-time system to account for inventory items being added to nor removed from the inventory using FIFO. Inventory is counted at the year end and the count is forwarded to the city's accountants and used to adjust inventory for the general ledger count. If the cost of inventory is unknown, the current replacement value is used for the cost. The city's accountant does not receive information during the year about the inventory being removed, nor what its purpose. Cause. As mentioned above, the city's water and sewer gas department does use formal inventory tracking system, and employees in these departments lack training with regard to acceptable inventory accounting methodologies. Effect. The cost of accounting in the water fund and natural gas fund could materially be misstated in the city's financial statements. They recommend that we noted that the city's electrical utility department uses an inventory program that tracks inventory as it's purchased and then reports the value of inventory using the weighted average cost of inventory valuation. All city utility departments should use the same inventory program and the method of inventory costing. The response. Management concurs with finding and has taken steps to mitigate all city departments to the same inventory system and that same method of inventory costing. I will note that we will probably get this finding again in 2025 because this did not take effect until probably sometime in 2026. So you'll probably see this finding one more time. But we are working as it stands right now to eliminate this finding. So it is a finding, a small finding, but we are working to eliminate the finding and correct the problems.
Can I speak to that real quick?
You may.
One of the first things that we did when Mike came on board as a public works supervisor is to meet with the work center supervisors in both of those areas. And we got them with some of the younger guys that are a little more computer savvy. And they are currently working on those. Natural gas is probably 3/4 of the way through all their stuff. I think they got some used products left to load. Water, of course, he was short one person. Glenn was doing it all himself. And he's not a computer guy, I don't think, but he shakes his head no. So we're working with him.
We got people in place to help him.
Yeah, we're working on that. So hopefully, of course, this is 2024's audit. 2025 is going to probably reflect the same thing, but we're already addressing them. It looks like more than likely by July we should be crossing our fingers. Everything should be online and computer. So then when they take the parts out, they'll document it in the computer system. They'll track it when they buy parts. They'll update all the inventory to include some of our used stuff. When we take meters apart and stuff, we've got good used fittings. So we're hoping to reuse some of that stuff, so it'll be tracked as well. So Mike, thank you for taking the lead on that and getting that put together.
Yep.
So this was concluded on May 6, 2026, according to this?
Yeah, I think he had most of it done.
Yeah, what was your just for anybody that's watching too, is when you went and said, yeah, you know, this will also be a finding for 2025. Well, of course, this is 2024 being completed in 2026. So if we get 2025 done also in 2026, we show the same thing until 2027.
And if everything goes well, we're on line to hopefully have the 2025s done before the end of June.
Is it the same company too?
Same company. So basically, we're asking for approval of the FY '24 audit tonight.
Do you have a motion to approve? Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Roseman,
Yes.
Renier,
Yes.
Boomer,
Yes.
Cracker,
Yes.
Marcel.
Yes.
Natural gas rates, discussion and approval?
So in your packet, you should have an email from myself, regarding, with the letter from Kevin Stiles regarding the natural gas increase that was presented at our, committee meeting. And he states that after reviewing the natural gas utility operations, it's my recommendation of the rate increase to 0.0145 cents per cubic foot from 0.0135 would be in order. And on the back side of that same email, he also presented what, the surrounding areas are charging. Ameren serves Rolla, Salem, and Owensville, and their rates are $14.62 per MCF, which is 1,000, per 1,000 cubic feet. And Spire serves Sullivan, and their rates are $14.53 per 1,000 cubic feet. So we are right in line with our neighbors. So
With
we're
this,
asking,
with this increase.
huh?
With this increase.
With this increase.
Ours go,
Yes.
145?
Yeah, $1.45
Per gallon.
per 1,000 cubic
Per
feet.
cubic.
For 100 cubic feet per gallon.
Per-
Make a motion, we pass, we pass it.
Let's do a roll call on that.
Marcel,
Yes.
Cracker,
Yes.
Mortimer,
Yes.
Renier,
Yes.
Roseman.
Yes.
Animal Control Police Committee discussing hiring of animal control officer.
So, about our animal control, we hired the animal control assistant, still being trained, doing well, working. Animal control is still, open by appointment only, while she's being trained, and then there'll be the schedule adjusted to where still be open to the public throughout normal working hours. At this point, we don't have anybody to present to hire for animal control. We had a couple of late applications picked up last week, so they just haven't been returned. So we're just gonna wait. We do have one that was returned, but if there's more coming in, I'd like the council to go ahead and let us wait a little longer. Hopefully by our next,
We just have one right now.
by next council meeting, hopefully we'll have something on the agenda there.
So we can move the table this until the next meeting.
2nd June. Park and Recreation Committee, pool rates recommendations. You got a committee member?
You should have a nice packet. There you go.
The proposed rate increases current is, existing,
Would you like me to go through the rates?
please.
It's okay. So in your packets, I have what the rates were last year, the costs were, and then the proposed recommendations from the Park and Recreation. I think some of them have gone up like $10. General daily admission they're proposing to go from $5 to $6. An individual season pass from $55 to $65. A family of two, $80 to $110. A family of four, which last year was a family of 3 to 6, is $130. They're proposing $180. And then a family and group of 5 is $15 per additional person. A senior pass last year was $40. Senior pass this year would be $45. Swimming lessons went up, an individual from 60 to 70, and $110 for a family of 2, there's $15 additional. And then pool parties, last year it was $100 for 1 to 25 guests. This year they are proposing $150. 26 to 50 guests, which last year was 26 to 40. They are proposing $200. And anything over 51 guests, $250.
Now, these are full committed,
These were recommended from the Park and
they
Recreation.
were recommended. You can still, well, you can do a first and a second and then discuss them. You do not have to go with their recommendation, so.
The only thing I know was discussed, I wasn't there, but what I know was discussed is with, the cost of lifeguards being more this year.
Yeah.
It costs us more to have lifeguards, so I think that was part of their conversation
That
of
was
why
part
I
of the
raised,
conversation.
which is what I was told.
The increased cost is the reason why they.
It's an upkeep with.
Let's get a first and a second first, and then we can discuss.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
So open for discussion. Got a quick question. Glenn, what's the cost of the chlorine and stuff for the pool this year? Has it gone up?
I haven't got prices for the new chlorine
Still
this year,
using
but I think it's pretty much the same as it was last year, but chlorine and acid is high, to balance the pool. And then we also have a couple other stuff that we add to it too, and, it goes up a little bit every year. I don't have the numbers exactly how much it has or not.
But it's relatively the same as last year.
Yeah. Expensive.
And then was this like the first rate increase that's come across for a while, if I remember correctly, Russ?
Well, on the senior, I know on the senior, we had had recommendations from the actual, the seniors at one of the council meetings to do about $5 raise. Is that correct, Lori?
Yes.
So they took your suggestion on the seniors.
But last, can I say something?
Sure.
Last year it was 35 between,
Okay.
so not 40.
Well, we printed out, I'm not disputing that, on the printout from last year that is given, that was on our website, it said 40.
Okay. So
Maybe you got a deal, I don't know.
You almost got
Yeah,
I don't know.
but we might need it in the beginning of the year.
They just printed them off our, I don't know.
But whatever, that's, I mean, 10 is better than half thing.
The one thing that we all know is that the pool is a money-losing entity. It is considered a public service for the community. I don't want to see too large of an increase because it's going to be hard on people. But we do need to mitigate loss as much as we can.
The pool is now and always will be a liability. Our cost is gonna keep going up. We can't keep raising it because it doesn't make any difference how much we raise. We're never gonna catch up. You can't sell candy bars for $10 a piece.
Right.
You can't sell candy bars for $10 a piece. It's gonna be a liability. We need the kids to pay for kids to go in the summertime. We keep raising the prices. The people can go there, probably can't pay the price. So I say that's all I say, it's always gonna be a liability, no matter what we raise.
I think maybe parties might be okay to go up because
a lot of people, you know, could pitch in for parties, but I really don't think we should raise the price on the other things very much because, like I said, it's for the kids and the kids something for them to do. And if their parents can afford it, then there won't be kids in the
And when I talked to the pool people today, they said this is just their recommendations. It's up to you guys to make the decisions as natural, so.
I will tell you, we in our office sat down one day and we went through each one, and I think our general raise that we presented to you guys were just for something. I think most of ours had like a 5, maybe like a pool party had a $10 or something raised.
Well, let's go through those rates then one by one. And maybe go through them one by one with the aldermen and decide what you guys want to do versus what they recommended. Is that simple?
Can I say something real quick? Right here.
Yeah.
So, the less, liability that you have from the park fund to the pool, the more you keep in your actual park fund. So, you do realize that the park fund, the park tax is helping fund the pool. So, if you don't help offset some of the costs and increase to your pool, anything left over is coming from the park tax, and that's not helping your parks out. So it's a give and a take there. So you're going to have to do something to mitigate the increase in cost to your pool at some point.
So there is something on here too. They did a breakdown on this for their recommended. It says that the pass pays for itself after, based on the $6 daily admission. So an individual pass, if you go 11 days, it pays for itself. A family of 2, if you go 9 days, it pays for itself. A family of 4, 8 days, and it pays for itself. And then the family in the group of 5, it says 7 or 5 days, depending on how many's on the pass. So I mean, that's another kind of breakdown that they added on their sheets.
I feel like it's a slippery slope. You raise your rates too much, it'll drive people away. Your total revenue will be the same anyway. I mean, I do like the idea of increasing for parties. I think that's a good idea to increase for revenue. I mean, this is a big jump.
And you know, we've got calls from surrounding towns that said our party prices were the cheapest around. No,
Cheapest
party doesn't know, but.
Hey, I know what kind of items on there, there's no doubt about that. But the thing about it is, we can't price your stuff out of business either.
Yeah.
Right. So, let's grab the charts and let's go through it. It says here, general daily admission, increase it to $6. That's raising it, what, $1? Are you guys okay with that?
Okay.
We have to have a motion on each individual one.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go, well, we don't have to have a motion, I'm just gonna go through it. Increases in individual pass, last year was what?
Individual season pass.
Was 55, they're asking to increase it to 65. Should we half that and go to 60?
I like that, 60.
Yeah, that's
60.
what our offers were.
Yeah, I like 60.
Family of 2 is at 110. What was it before?
80, that's a big jump.
Well, let's
Make it 90.
90.
go to 90. Family of 4.
Well, 3 to 6.
Well, they used to have 3 to 6. I think they're going family of 2, and then family of 4. So that would be actually family of 3 to 4.
3 to 6 was 130, and they jumped it to, for family of
So-
4 to 180.
It'll be family of 3 to 4. They went from 130 to 180.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
140.
Alright.
You like it?
150.
Yeah, 140.
150.
I think they just said 140.
140, is that what you said? Everybody okay with 140?
Yep.
Well, so they added another group, a family group of 5 up to 8.
What they're doing is they're maxing now the family at 8, and then they have to pay, after 8 people, you would have to
I
pay
see.
So a family of 5 maxed out at 8 would be, what was it before?
They don't have them.
A family of over 6 was,
So it ended up being
140. And I did it cheap for the car.
yeah.
We use the same one, and we kind of went through each one just based on the recommendations and the one we sat down and did.
Swimming lessons is different. That's something.
She would have grabbed the sheet.
The recommendations that she had.
I just want to say for the record, I'm not discrediting the park board's prices. This was just what we did on our own one day in our office, off some of the recommendations we heard from the crowd. And we went off of the 25 settings. So we kept the daily rate at $5, but if you like the $6, fine. We kept the $4 for the seniors, 55 and up. Season pass, we did 60 for an individual, 85 for a family of 2, 135 for the family 3 to 6, 15 for anything over 6, $15 per member, yes. And then the seniors 55 and up pass, we did 45. Swimming lessons, we just did 70 for an individual, 110 for a family of 2, and then 15 for an additional family member over that. Private parties, we did not go, yeah, we might have. Private parties, we did 150 for 1 to 25, 200 for 26 to 40, and 250 for 41 guests and up. So, yeah, more of those.
I like those numbers. It's kind of where we were, what we were just doing.
Well, like I said,
Those went up like 50.
what?
That's private pool.
Private parties did, because the price of our lifeguards and what we had to have, you know, we have to have a certain amount of guards per kids, and with the cost, it's like we weren't doing very well.
They have
So,
different number of participants. just
on the
like-
very last one,
Okay.
we do, yeah.
So, seniors fine. Swimming lessons, you gotta wanna do it. I mean, that's something that's elective, selective, what do you wanna call it? Parties, hey, it's a party. I say that 45, 70, and 150, 200, and 250 is fine. That's something that doesn't affect anybody, if you don't wanna do it, you don't do it.
So
My thoughts.
basically, all the other rates, we did like a $5 or $10 increase, nothing, I think it was pretty much $5 is what we did. But like I said, that was just us over what we heard from the community, what we threw together.
So let's read these out real quick and you guys decide. Daily rate would be $5 for ages 3 and above. Children 2 and under are free.
Can I tell you why, just from what we've heard from community and phone calls that we take, we kept it as 5 because our pool, I mean, we are a pool, we don't really offer a whole lot. We don't have the big slides, we don't have the, like, water walls and stuff for the kids, you know, so we have a pool for you to swim in, and that's
Well,
kind of it.
I think
So-
we agreed $6 was a good.
And that's fine, I was just telling you about
I think
we
we
chose
stay with
not to.
$6 on that.
I agree with that, 6.
All right, then $4, let's see, for seniors, do we have that?
I think they did.
$4 for seniors 55 and up on a daily pass.
Okay, so it's gonna be daily for everybody.
A season pass is $60 for an individual, 85 for a family of 2.
90. That's where you agree on 90.
Yeah. Okay.
So you want 90?
Agree on was 90.
Family of 3 to 6,
140.
they have 135 on here.
We agreed to 140.
140?
Yep.
Family of over 6, add $15 for each person. Seniors 55 and up, their pass would be 45. Swimming lessons is $70 for an individual. 110 for a family of 2. $15 for each additional person. Private parties, $150 for 1 to 25 guests, $200 for 26 to 40 guests, and $250 for 41 guests and up.
Correct.
Booking a pool party requires 50% down at the time of reservation. Motion to approve those rates?
And then do we want to add these, so on theirs, it just, which I think these are our rules, not 100%, but like passes are only good for daily admission. So if there's a special activity, you do have to pay another entrance. Senior passes will cover everything.
We read those also, it's on the record.
I mean, that's their recommendations, that's if you guys want to keep that or not.
The second page of the recommendations, passes be only good for daily admission, which means from 12 to 6, normal pool hours, and not cover the special activities. In other words, if you wanted to come to a midnight swim or something like that, then you would pay the daily rate.
Did they put on there?
It's down the bottom.
Admission for pool, like a twilight, which is like a teen night, so they're saying anything extra, it would just be like a $3, because it's only like normally a 2 hour.
Okay, so passes, to be on the record, passes be only good for daily admissions 12 to 6 and not cover special activities. Admission for the special activities would be $3 for like the pool fitness and twilight swims.
Okay.
Senior passes, however, would cover everything. So if you have a senior pass and you want to come to the movie night or the swim night or whatever, you would be covered with your senior pass. And that's it.
For that, I made a motion.
Motion.
Mayor, you already had a first and a second motion.
Already had it.
No discussion. And what was that motion? So was that for the original rates as recommended?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so
So we need
you
to
have to
withdraw
amend
those
your
two.
motion and get a first and second.
Hold
So
on,
you have to,
withdraw those?
Yeah.
Hold on.
you have to amend it.
Amend.
You have to move to amend and get a second.
Okay, she said. I'll make a motion to amend it. We need a second.
Second.
Mortimer, and he was louder, that's who I heard.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Okay, so this is what I got.
These are the new rates. Do we get any surplus bids for the?
We received one today at 2:45.
About getting it in.
You know how much bids do come in very last minute? That we received? Mhm.
Looks like Robert Wheatsacker.
Renewable proposal, $217, I will provide City of Cuba, $217 for the removal of damaged pavilion located at Tangle Creek Park. This will include all labor and equipment necessary to complete removal within time specified by bid. Insurance copy provided, no utilities or concrete removal included.
No, I think he's misunderstood.
Yeah.
I think he thinks he's bidding to remove the item instead of buying the item.
Yeah, that,
And there's no payment, right? 'Cause we
No,
requested.
there's no check. I think he definitely misunderstood. So we have no bids. Anybody want to do?
we redid it.
No, it's not ready. We'll dispose of it.
Then our boys take care of it.
Well, what are we doing? We're gonna get rid of it ourselves?
Yeah,
Then we'll have to do it ourselves.
So there was a time span to receive bids, and it's closed?
Yes.
Okay.
Emily, do we need to motion to, reject that bid or no?
It's not really a bid.
I don't think it really even complies, as you said, I think they got it backwards.
Okay.
Next discussion is street department, discussion of the bridge issue on Main Street and approval of the solution. You're up, Al.
Okay, we had a kind of a brief meeting with the mayor, Cameron was involved, and a couple of the aldermen, or not aldermen, I'm sorry, the supervisors, water and sewer. We got a problem with Main Street Bridge, which is, just to the east side of the viaduct. Culvert there is rotten and gone pretty well, and it's eroding from outside under the bridge. We band-aided it, and it's to the limit now. It's, well, matter of fact, we've got half the road blocked off now. It's getting to be that unsafe. My recommendation would be to vacate it temporarily, and I mean like a year, 2 years, whatever it takes to get the funds to replace it, and go from there. That's what I would come up with. Because we got water and sewer issues also that has to be taken care of and addressed at the same time. It's not gonna be a quick fix or a cheap fix.
So this is on northeast Main, correct?
East Main, yes.
It's between the Wallace Wall and the railroad trestle. That Main Street Bridge, it's a waterway that goes under the building and goes on up.
Oh, yeah, okay, I know, all right.
Do we have a sewer line on that through there?
We've got a sewer line that's already inside that culvert.
Inside it.
Okay, patch over the top of it. So that's why I say it's gonna be not an easy fix. I think AJ said that he possibly could lower the sewer, but you're talking cost effective here. Water's the same way. It's in there.
A lot of excavation involved.
It takes a lot of water too.
That's a lot. And we gotta watch what we do there, because once it leaves us there, it's underneath another building.
All the way underneath Wallace.
Yeah.
So is the street department's recommendation closing the street for now permanently until the fix is resolved?
Correct. I like temporary.
And we want to close it from Highway 19 to, is that 8th Street?
Just to the, in my opinion, probably just on the other side of the bridge, probably.
We can go on the other side of the bridge, because we do have one house up there.
Yeah, one house is still
down.
there, 205.
Wallace has parking too.
Wallace has parking in there. So we can just go past the bridge,
Okay.
but I'd like to block it all the way off down to 19, so nobody's coming in there and trying to back out on 19.
Since that's a natural waterway, we can't very well close it, not the waterway itself.
Well, it can't, the water could go nowhere because
You
it comes
can't
over
go
the
to the
railroad, it comes over the railroad under their building.
Just close the street till we can possibly get grant money or something to replace this with.
It's not gonna be a cheap fix.
Oh, no.
I make a recommendation, we go ahead and close the street for safety issues immediately
Can I
until we
say
can come up with a
something?
resolution.
Now we can talk.
Okay. The building that it goes under was mine at one time. It fell through one time. What is reinforced the top of that culvert that goes underneath that building is old Model A car frames. They even had steel. It's like 8 foot across and 4 foot up and down. So it's completely, that was what was when it fell through, that's what exactly what was there. It wasn't steel, it was old Model A car frames, because it was put in 1932.
That was the bridge.
Yeah, and it's what's underneath that building, which drain takes all this water. So, you know, it's not only eroding probably this, but probably someday, what you do about it, but it goes underneath that building. So it might be bad all the way through, but when it's a natural water, I mean, natural drainage.
Well, I'm not gonna crawl under and see what's like.
Yeah, the faster we put the water down there, the worse it's gonna be under there.
And one other thing I will mention too, this culvert that is there now, was put in there, I believe it was in 1980s, 2000, we checked on it the other day. It was after I left in 95, but it was just shortly thereafter. So you're talking a pretty good expense for less than 30 years. So I would say, let's look at it and build it for a more permanent.
And all kinds of.
Kind of for a long-term fix rather than.
Yeah, we can't be doing this every 25 years.
Who owns the building?
Small.
So we have a first and a second. Roll call vote on closing the street.
Mizell?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Mormar?
Yes.
Ranieri?
Yes.
Brisbane?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll get some building blocks, the Lego blocks, the concrete thing tomorrow, and we'll get to closing that up. Thank you.
Water Department hiring of a water laborer position.
We have a gentleman here tonight that we accepted his application, like him to be hired here.
I can't hear you.
Go on for a moment.
Come on up.
We had a gentleman here that we accepted his application and would like him to be hired tonight for the labor's position for the water department.
And the name?
Evans, Tristan Evans.
There was only application received.
There was, 3 others, we interviewed one other person.
Okay.
And this is who you want to hire, correct? You decided?
We only have one to hire, that's all we're approved for.
Okay.
And this is the gentleman we'd like to hire.
I'll make a motion to hire.
Second.
You said second. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? What's your start date?
It'll be not this next Monday, but the Monday after.
Okay. Have you explained to him the commitment on the certifications?
Yes.
Okay. You understand there's a training commitment after you become certified in your certifications, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do we have to get that in ordinance form, or
Well, Laney will handle that.
before that can be signed?
And that's why I asked when you're gonna be able to start, so give us time to work on that.
Mayor, I hate to interrupt, we need to go back to the street department issue with the vacation of the bridge. We need to reconsider that motion. There needs to be public notice specifically of that before you vacate
Okay, well,
the
we're not,
bridge.
are we vacating the bridge or we just temporarily close it until we?
Well, either if you're vacating the bridge or you're vacating the street, which I think you did, you have to have a specific line item on your agenda for that. So I think you need to vote to reconsider that and have it placed on the next meeting on the agenda specifically
Okay.
to give proper notice.
Thank you.
And what is that?
Oh, thank you guys.
Agenda item to what?
So that-
Add that as an agenda item to the next meeting, the specific portion of the roadway, including the bridge, wherever it is that you're proposing to vacate.
Can that street stay open that long?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Or,
Can it stay open that long, that street?
and how long are we talking about?
Next meeting.
That's 2 weeks.
We've got the worst half of it blocked off now, which it's a one-way street through there for that first used to be 2 blocks. So because you can't come down to 19 in that direction at all. So it's already a one-way street, and I've just left one lane open. But it's also deteriorating, but not, I don't think it's as critical to be dangerous within another meeting or 2.
Can we do something like a temporary closure due to public safety interests? Like basically an emergency with a motion next meeting to close it until repairs are better made? I'm more worried about the public, drive a car over
I
it.
understand, I think if it'll make it the way it is until the next meeting, we probably just ought to place it on the agenda, but if you feel if the concern is that there's an emergency condition, like you can do a temporary, you're gonna need to go back still and amend that vote, reconsider that vote, but you can make it on an emergency basis if it's that dire a situation.
And I think that'd be the expertise of the street department to make that call.
We'll leave it as is, and then we'll re-entertain it on the 2nd of June with the council. So, withdraw the motion to close the street right now.
I would make a motion to reconsider and have a first and a second that you're going to, instead of vacating or closing at this time, you're going to place it specifically on the agenda for the next meeting.
Motion to reconsider. So I need a first.
I can't hear you very well.
I'm sorry. You
It's
just
okay,
speak up.
it's okay, thank you. So you said you're a second? So a motion and a second to reconsider the motion.
Right, to close the street. Then that specific item would be brought back up June 2nd, so the public has a chance to respond to it.
Do we have to make a motion to emergency close it? Yeah.
No, right now, we have one side of the street blocked off where the actual caving in is taking place on the one corner.
But with the amount of rain we just got yesterday, are we in more jeopardy? Okay,
We'll keep an eye on it.
thank you.
I looked at it today, so it's
Great, thank
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, can we do that right now?
you. We got a motion and second.
Did you get the vote?
No, we didn't.
I don't
Need
think
a
so.
vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry for the confusion, folks. Sometimes we don't get it right. And now the airport hangar project grant application using MPE and Bill Aid funds, discussion and approval.
You want some explanation on what MPE?
Yes, please.
So MPE is non-primary entitlement. I know, right? So you get $150,000 of MPE each year, and you can carry over up to 4 years at a time, and you can save up to $600,000, and then the oldest year expires as the new year is available. The local share is typically 10%, but vary in FY 2020, 2021, 2025, and 2026. And this is from Barry Stoltz, by the way. BIL is Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, now known as IIJA, which equals Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act. This is a limited time program that allocates funding for you from FY 22 through FY 26 in different amounts, but between $137,000 and $159,000 per year. After the hangar project, it will be all used. Local share is 5%. AIG is Airport Infrastructure Grant. This is just another description of the BIL and IIJA funding. It is usually used to distinguish BIL AIG from BIL ATP or Airport Terminal Program. Things like. So that was Barry's explanation of all of those abbreviations. And so what we're asking for from Michelle Niles at MoDOT had asked permission to use a previous ordinance that was passed a year ago, bill number 2190. Special Ordinance 949, this past October 7th, of October in 25. For the airport, when we had applied previously, for an airport grant, and it's still active, so she's asking permission for us to utilize the same, ordinance for the airport hangar grant. And so we can do that. And we also attached with that the agreement from the grant. We will have to redo this as each year of funding becomes available, because right now they're only going to give us the amount of funding that becomes available for each year. So right now, the amount of this grant that's available is on page 3. Then it tells you there on item number 4, $380,030 for eligible preliminary project costs and/or land easements. And then on page 5, it goes into the amount of $80,030 of the grant stated above represents 90% of the eligible project costs, while the $300,000 represents the 95% of the eligible project cost. And then it talks about the amount of matching funds, which is furnished by the sponsor and should not exceed the $24,681. And also tells us there that the amount of $8,892 represents 10% of eligible project costs, while $15,789 represents 5% of eligible project costs. There's some more, but that's basically what they're asking us to do, is just to approve the use of this ordinance for that application.
It's the same grant.
For the hangar grant.
So I make a motion that we can do that.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Police chief report, nuisance report.
With our nuisance, don't have a whole lot that came in. We do have a fairly large one that came in and was handled on last Thursday. The 405 North Springfield Bridgman home. There was a lot of, they were blocking streets, speeding up and down streets, doing burnouts and driving carelessly, revving up motors and causing a nuisance with some noise and sound and blocking roads. But we've taken care of that. So that's the only nuisance that I know that has come to our office lately. Unless anybody's got anything more. The other thing, we have a resignation by one of the officers. Resigning for a better paying job. So we need to accept his resignation, and I'd also like to get an ad in the paper to replace this officer. This officer is also a canine handler, so I have to make plans for our canine.
Does the dog stay with somebody else?
The dog will stay with somebody else.
So do we need a separate motion to accept the resignation?
Yeah, we have to have a motion to accept his resignation.
Motion, accept.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then a motion to go out to advertise.
How long do you want run the ad?
Run the ad.
Until it's filled, or?
The ad, we usually always run until we fill
I make a motion to run an ad.
You have 2 open positions currently, is that right? You got the offer out to the other.
it. Yeah, that one won't be filled till July 24th, and then we have this one. I have another officer that's out on injury, so he's out on my duty. And this this month, so really I'm down four officers.
Did that person in the academy accept?
Mm-hmm.
So I made a motion to run an ad.
I'll second. Discussion?
So you said you're down 4, including Jay Howard right now?
Huh?
You're down 4 right now?
Once his last day is, yeah.
Executive session, I can't discuss.
My approach.
So, I put in your packet, or put in your mailbox some same information that I have edited a little bit. There were some questions I didn't ask you before. So before I get to those questions, the police department brings in $15,200 in estimated revenues. Their expenses, something I think is pretty important to picture in your mind, is $1.6 million. The offset is $1.5 million. Where does this funding come from? The general fund revenues projected without transfers is $1.3 million. The revenue comes from, to offset that, is comprised of capital improvements and proprietary funds from the electric, water, and natural gas. So you have to ask yourself the questions I'm getting ready to ask you. How many officers are working during the daytime hours? How many of those officers are working on the roads during the daytime hours? How many officers work during the night compared to the day? How many officers work weekends compared to the weekday hours? Why aren't we being reimbursed by the school for the SRO officer? Why are you paying the SRO sergeant pay instead of just SRO pay? Where do we compare to the number of officers in cities our size? And what is our crime rate currently? Not the national average. Adding a new officer increases our annual budget by about $74,000 for wages, taxes, loggers, and benefits. This estimate does not include workers' compensation, which is adjusted to our annual audit. Where the revenue will come, where will the revenue come to support this cost? And should we continue this practice? I recommend adopting a city policy that limits our transfers from business type activities to cover this type of spending. I also recommend freezing hiring for all non-supervisory positions and avoiding the creation of new positions in any department until citywide cash flow is improved. In addition, the city's current unreconciled bank balance is $4.6 million. This is not sustainable and will limit the city of Cuba's ability to grow unless we reduce spending and prepare for the challenges ahead. To curb excessive spending, these measures must be implemented and not only in the police department but across all departments. I know that you guys are tired of me thinking I'm picking on one department. I'm not. This is across the board. It's not just one department, but they seem to have some turnover right now. All expenditures must be frozen in order to build cash flow at this time. We can no longer have departments spending cash at the same time. There will be from time to time bills that will have to be paid. Dues, insurance, natural gas, electricity, limit training, unless they need to get certified. When I explain free spending, I'm explaining that even if they are budgetary items, you gotta put them on hold. Until our cash flow gets developed.
Right, we're talking about the city's budget over here. This is supposed to be my time to talk.
He asked if I had a budgetary issue.
Right,
Currently,
we're going way beyond just.
it is a budgetary item, but it's $74,000 more,
Right.
and
And
you're
I
asking
should
how
have
are we
put a
gonna afford to
presentation
spend
on
it?
every single time I do this.
Oh, I wasn't done.
Oh, continue. But I should have put a presentation on every time I want to hire somebody. This is just some interesting reading from Police One on rural.
I also attached to my packet our sales tax revenue for the last 5 years. In this report, you can see that the sales tax revenue dropped off and stayed steady. This is not a sign, a good sign. It measures that we're not only growing at the rate of revenue we're not growing for the rate of revenue for our town, but our expenditures are growing as everything in the world around us is. I also included you how our cash flow works. It's important to know how that cash flow works. Please understand that we have all this revenue feeding into our cash flow and all of these expenses flowing out, and what is left to pay the salaries is what's left over. Unfortunately, payroll is our largest expense. So when we talk about hiring another employee, we have to think what's left over to pay for that employee when we're done. Combating these problems are issues that attrition will resolve one step at a time. If we don't do attrition, unfortunately, we're looking at the next step in cutting wages, which is a term no accountant or supervisor wants to use, but always comes when you must cut expenses, which is a layoff. However, when I talk about attrition, I'm not talking about a layoff. Attrition is defined as a reduction in numbers as of employees or participants, usually as a result of resignation, retirement, or death. I guess I'm tired of people telling me I want a layoff when I'm asking for attrition. I'm not. I'm asking for you to do attrition to reduce our wage expenditures across the board. Not just in one department, but in all departments that need it. If we don't do something, if the city of Cuba is not going to sustain its bank balances, we're going to continue to decline. It's all departments have to have a hiring freeze, have to have a spending freeze. It has to be across the board. We have to tighten our belts.
So you just mentioned per department. So are you also including electric, street, sewer,
There
natural
has
gas?
to be a minimum number in each department for each department to run.
Okay, there has to be a minimum, and we have those minimums.
We do now.
Okay, well, I'm saying, is this an ordinance minimum, state minimum? I'm asking questions because I really
And
don't
I'm
know.
saying we have a minimum for the other departments. I don't know, I don't know the police department myself, so I've never.
I didn't know that there was a minimum per department. And I'm just throwing it out there, all the
Yeah,
departments.
like Blaine can't work by himself, he's gotta have a second person.
Right.
Same thing, natural gas has to have 3 people in their work center.
But we're asking my officer to work by himself at night, in the middle of the night,
You're-
by himself.
No.
So, are we back to the police department yet, or are we still
Yes,
doing
you're
budgets?
done, right?
And I want to point out that they cut money in, animal control to make sure that they could have the right number of officers that we need.
So part of the question
No,
was,
that's not why we
you
cut
asked if I
animal
went
control.
out
Yes, it is.
to, you went out to, did I go out
for a bit? Okay, we're done.
and I go out to talk to the school? I've done that. There is a number, they are gonna present with their board, but there is a number that looks good for them for reimbursement, so there will be that as well. You asked for some statistics. Our database that we use for report writing is an old platform, but I was able to reach out because they have even though it's the same one, it's Omnigo that we use. Omnigo is our report writing platform.
So we're not using ITI anymore.
It's formerly ITI, and our platform that we work on is basically the same as the old ITI. They're going through Simcom. With the Omnigo, they were able to put these statistics together. Now, those are going to be as hard for you to read as they are for me, but there's your breakdown of everything for last year. So, if it wasn't for this person resigning for a better paying job, then we would be full staff with the new coming officer that we agreed that we needed and we voted for. So we still have that. All I'm asking is to replace this officer. We're not increasing our position.
You
We're
said
replacing this
for a
officer.
better paying job?
Yeah, he's gonna have a better.
And the school is going to
Do we
pay
have a
for one
resignation
position.
letter? But it doesn't say that on here, though.
What's that? Well, he didn't have to put that on. I'm just telling you what I know.
And the school just has to be approved by the school board to.
Yeah, we can't really talk a whole lot about that because they haven't gone to their school board yet.
Yeah.
All I'm asking is, we don't need to defund the police department. We need officers that have another officer working with them at night. I have my supervisors that do supervisory work during the day, that's only open during daytime hours. A detective works daytime hours, he works weekends also, not every weekend, but he does work weekends also for his investigative purposes. And I have my squads, I have 2 different squads that run a Kelly shift, and they work 12-hour shifts. And they rotate from days to evenings to nights. And right now, we're running at a bare minimum, and they're working by themselves.
Hey, Jack, question. How many of your officers, moonlight, or go to jobs besides this?
Most of them,
Most of them?
yes.
Let me ask you another question. You say that your officer quit us to have a better job. Did they get all their unemployment, did you get all their insurance paid by the other job? And had all their retirement paid? That is also part of your salary.
I don't ask him what his new benefit package is gonna be, but I'm gonna assume so since it's in Franklin County.
I doubt they get all of it paid.
I'm gonna think this place probably does.
And
And regardless, it doesn't matter if it's, whether it's law enforcement somewhere else, or if it's a construction crew, I mean, he's going for a better paying job.
I just wonder.
Yeah.
You see most of them do have.
Mm-hmm.
That's my question.
And we are also going to be saving more money in animal control in the future if positions change.
Do we, as the alderman, can we get copies of the schedule to see, you know, what the hours are, what the Kelly schedule is? You say Kelly schedule, and I don't remember that.
That's where the officers work, they work 2 days, they're off 2 days, work 3 days, then they're back to the.
Panama schedule, is what I call it. Okay.
It's a DuPont 4 group, basically.
Okay.
My feelings are it's just a very, it's just a difficult time, and I view it as the worst thing that could happen is we haven't approved the new budget, and then you have to lay somebody off you just hired. I hate that to happen. I hate to treat people that way. But I do understand. I would love to give you everything you want. I mean, it's just really tricky. With the timeline of the budget, I feel like, and then with your headcount issues going on right now, it's just a lot to take in at once. I think there's a lot up in the air, and I would just hate to treat people like pawns. That being said, we're not approving the hire of someone, we're just approving the posting today, right?
Correct, but we also just voted to go ahead and make a commitment to hire someone, so our full staff. Why would we turn around and, hey, let's not hire someone this time to make a full staff? That doesn't make sense to me.
Any other discussion? We have a first and a second to go out and advertise for, what do you call it?
Police officers.
Law enforcement officer.
So the call's not gonna be assigned to this person?
It depends on who applies. That's something I gotta figure out because
Do we have anybody currently with any type of canine experience?
No, we don't. We have a lot of money invested in this canine, and trying to find somebody to handle them and run them and continue to work with them is pretty important. A lot of money invested in it.
Is it an option that if another department is seeking a dog from the city, is the dog considered city property then?
Yes.
So if they say another department is looking for a canine,
They won't buy one from a used dog from another
We
department.
need that dog.
They will go.
Yes,
They'll go
we
straight
do.
to the source.
Does county still have canine as well?
Not 100%.
Okay, we got
I don't believe so.
we got a first and a second. Do a roll call vote.
Roseman,
Yes.
Renier,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Barfield.
Yes.
Motion passes. Go out for advertisement.
Anything else for me? Any questions about anything else? I believe that's all I have.
All right, old unfinished business. What? Joyce?
Well, I'd like to know, we had voted for the EOC to go out for bids to be moved, and then I didn't hear anything else about that. You have a
Okay.
It's not, well.
bid? It's not on the agenda.
This is, Mayor Greg Humble, the director of VOC. I did start getting bids, I was waiting on other bids to come in, I was advised, due to budget restraints, we're not moving. So I stopped searching for bids. That's the long and short of it.
But the city council voted for him to be able to go out for bids.
They did, and I was advised,
By who?
I would rather not say, but it was of the members here at the board.
But
and
when
the
this,
mayor. Okay, I'll put that, it was the mayor.
Emily, if we vote for
Okay.
him to go out for
Okay, but now,
bids,
when the mayor took over, he advised me, due to budget restraints, right now, we cannot move. That's exactly what I was told, so I quit looking to try to figure it out.
but you
And I
came
mean,
to us twice and told us you could not handle an emergency where you are.
I said that, and I don't have all the proper equipment, and I've been after that since day one. So, with nothing in the budget where I can get the radio that was destroyed, the laptop that was messed up, and from day one when I took over, I can't move, so I'll just have to work with what I got when I can. But that's exactly what I was told. Due to budget restraints, we cannot move at this time.
There was twofold part to that, actually. But if you guys want to go out for bid, that's fine. But there was a two parts of that, in that you were getting with the new Lauren and finding out whether or not the rec line would meet the requirements for.
Well, what we had talked about on that is if people wanted to rent it for, and I'm gonna say a wedding or during a play, and I got one of the dressing rooms tied up, they're not gonna be able to do it. So I went to go over with Ms. Herzl, we went over to,
The old Medco.
Medical building, thank you. And in the front office, right there, if you come off of the BP, there was a small office I could use. Jerry said if they could open up the wall to make a big room, would cost about $300. They would have to move the generator over, make a new pad, run the electric over. What was gonna be the most expensive part was moving the antenna and getting the antenna and everything lined up. That was like $2,800.
When you first were offered the opportunity to go out for a bid, it went for quite a while, and I asked you whether or not the guy had come or whatever, and you said no, and then you were gonna get with Lauren and discuss both the rec line and that building.
Okay, and like I said, I tried to get with Warren, and he's been busy with everything, so we never could really hook up 100%. So I took it
I
on.
did tell you, based on budget constraints, it's probably not gonna happen, but I did not tell you it wasn't gonna
No,
happen.
your exact words were, sir, is with budget restraints right now, it is not going to happen.
Well, it's probably not gonna happen.
And I understand that, and I get that, I'm not upset about that.
But I said you still had to get the Lauren, and I never told you not to get the bids from the guy.
Well, when I basically told that it's not gonna happen, why waste my time? You know, I mean, that's the way I look at it, to be honest with you, sir.
Okay, real quick. So you said get with Lauren Wilson about rec line and the Medco building?
Well, he said, they were talking about rec line. Lauren wants to move the rec line, that's all he talked about, was moving the rec line, because rec line has a backup generator.
And it has a tower.
And it has a tower. They don't have to move the tower over there, the building is tall enough, they could hook the satellite and stuff on top of the building. When the guy came out and gave me the estimate. They don't have to move the tower, but all the other equipment has to be moved.
So based on previous discussions, you have the right to go out and get your bids. So you can go out and get your bids, correct, Emily? He was given.
Yeah, that's already been approved.
Yeah, yeah, go out and get your bids, but it'll be both bids for the rec line and for the MEPCO as we agree.
Well, to move the equipment's gonna be about the same either direction, you figure $2,800 for that. Just to move the equipment. With the generator being set up, I mean.
Let's get the bids. And then
Well, I've done resubmit the bids for the moving of the equipment. But we're still going back to day one, and this is before you took over, sir. My portable radio to where I can activate the siren system in case I lose power or the building gets damaged and I can't get in to do it. I need a portable radio to activate that. I was told from day one that basically that wasn't gonna happen. The laptop that was damaged, I don't know whatever became of the investigation on that. But that should have been, to me, that should have been, able to prosecute the person that did that. Because that was city property. And it was maliciously and permanently damaged. But.
That was handled in closed session.
Okay. Am I not entitled to know about that since it's my equipment?
I don't.
And it's my department?
Well, it's the city's equipment.
Well, okay, but my department, let me put that, let me rephrase it.
You have a new computer?
No!
I thought we.
They didn't need the computer when they brought it, it was something else causing
That
the
was,
problem.
I'm talking about the laptop.
That
There
was the money.
a
we
hardware
were
issue they
using.
found out. It wasn't the computer itself, that was a hardware issue. I'm talking about the laptop that was destroyed. And the radio that was destroyed. That is part of my department, and if something was done about it, should I have not been called into a special session or pulled into an office and, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what's going on. I've never been told nothing. So, but there again, going back to rec line. If by chance, my reason I don't want to use rec line is if we got to move people in there. We're going to have people that's going to be trying to figure out the plan of attack. You've got other people that's going to be sitting down in the lower area, but they're going to be only hearing parts of the conversation and they're going to be putting on the media, social media. They don't need nowhere near that. That's why I'm trying to stay with moving to the MEPCO building. That way, that building is strictly to house people if needed. And they're not around anything that's going on that they don't need to know every little move that we're trying to do. It needs to be kept safe. That's my only reason of wanting to move to MEPCO. Yes, sir.
Hey, Chief. To the new council members, we've already got almost $50,000 in this building across the street. It can't be used in EOC forever because it was already designed to do something else. We got a lot of room at the MEPCO. It would cost us another $3,000 to move it. We need to utilize it, what we fix this building up for, and we got almost $50,000 in it now.
Now I've got another question since we're talking about that building.
We need to stop because this is not on the agenda.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to get it scheduled for the second, on June 2nd. We'll let you, but in the meantime, if you can get us those, you have till June 2nd to get us the bids for the.
Well, I gave the thing, a rough bid of what I feel it's gonna cost to move everything over there. I done told her what it would be when I made the budget.
Okay.
To move the equipment, to build the concrete pad.
Did you actually get a bid from the people?
No, because trying to nail down the supervisor for the electric department, to get him over there is next to impossible.
Well, we gotta have the exact bids. We can't go with a what if, unfortunately, because our budget's really tight, so we gotta know what's going
Okay,
on.
and I don't know. Then then I gotta nail down the supervisor for the electric department. I guess I need to get with Jerry about
We
the
don't
building.
need those costs.
I'm
We
sorry?
just need, if he's talking, we just need to know how much it's gonna cost to move the antenna, a separate company. The cost for our city employees, we don't need.
Yeah.
Well, then I've done gave that. That was 28, like
Well, you'll need
28,
an update,
29.
you'll need an updated one because it's over 30 days old.
Okay.
Is there any way that our workers could help move some of that stuff?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing they could, but as far as setting it up,
Well, I know
programming
some
it
of
and
them
aiming
have
it,
to
so
do
why
that.
not let them be responsible to do everything from point A to point B? Because if we damage something, we're liable. If they damage, they're liable. And that's exactly the way I look at it. You know, if they damage the antenna or something like that, then we're gonna be out X, Y, Z again.
Okay.
Well, if I remember correctly, we had two bids that we were supposed to get. One was to go to the rec line, and the other was to go to the
Metro.
utility building down there. So we need those bids, and then we can move from there. If you have those bids by June 2nd, we'll put it on the agenda for June 2nd, and we'll resolve the whole issue.
Okay, I'll do it in right now.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other older unfinished business? No. All right. We will,
Jerry wanted to make an announcement to thank Noel Hendricks
Yes.
for,
He repaired the box in the pool, where we had frozen pipes that broke, and he did it free of charge. We had bought like $40 worth of material, so he donated his labor to fix it for us. I just thought he ought to be recognized.
thank you, Noel. Excuse me. All right. We're gonna take a 5-minute break, and we're gonna go into closed session.
And we have to,
That's what we got to do. We're gonna vote to go into closed session, close the public pursuant to RSMO 610-021, Section 1, legal advice, litigation, and Section 21, security camera systems.
Motion.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, sorry. Roll call, sorry.
Renzo. Here. Crowder. Romero.
yes.